Welcome everybody to Office Hours. My name is Spencer Sharp from Sharp the Builder or the Innovative Teacher Podcast. It seems like I get to do a lot of cool things nowadays because I know so many awesome people from the space. Thankfully to SchoolRubric, which I greatly appreciate. We are super excited because over at Office Hours we've really made a shift and we really went student centered and we've kind of focused on taking student voice and empowering them and looking at their one word, like that one word episode we did, which I felt was super powerful. And really that's what we're going to dive in today. But before we do that, I think we need to do a little bit of introductions and check-ins. And the first person I want to introduce is one of my new favorite people, and she's new to Office Hours, and that's Mary. So Mary, could you introduce yourself a little bit, do a little check-in with how you're feeling?
Hey, hello everyone. I am Mary Payton, and I'm feeling really good today. Just helping to finish up the school year with my lovely nieces and nephew in Mansfield ISD. I host the All About STEM radio show, and I have had the pleasure of having Spencer and Emine on the show. And Traci, I am pulling you into my fold. So I am so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, and we're so excited to continue this conversation today. But Emine, we'd like to check in with you and see how you're doing on this day.
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm Emine, and I run the blog Sprouting Stems. I teach in India, and I teach Indian students, and it has been very heavy 2-3 weeks. So learning how to hold space for my students during a time that it's a lot of new feelings for a lot of us. So I'm hanging in there. But if everybody could keep India in their thoughts and help out in any way they can, it goes a long way. So yeah, a lot of new things that I'm feeling and doing right now, but doing well.
And we'll absolutely be thinking about you. And if there's any way we can help, always, we love to reach out to our audience because we love this community so much. Traci, could you give us a little check-in? I know you are a regular, obviously, but hey, we want you to check in and let us know how you're feeling.
It's always good to be here. Emine, you and all of our neighbors are definitely in our thoughts and prayers. Just praying to push through. I'm good. It's rounding out the end of the year, and there's so many emotions that come with that, now more than ever. So just trying to deal with those emotions. It's hard to prepare little kindergartners to say goodbye, but we're hanging in there.
That is awesome. So we are going to jump right in. Today's show is all about those fun summer engaging activities for students, and they're really student-centered. So they kind of fall along with what we've been doing here at Office Hours, and we're super excited. And kind of how our format's going to work, we all have a lesson of some sort with an artifact, either some pictures or videos that we're going to show, and that person's going to explain it, and then we're just going to talk about it a little bit and break it down. That way we know that, hey, summer, that doesn't mean learning is necessarily over. It just means, hey, let's think of different ways and new ways to engage our students, through camps, online, whatever that space might be. That's kind of what we're going to be looking at today. So we're super excited. I know I always talk about, beforehand, we're talking backstage, how much fun we're having. And we had a lot of fun talking about, what we're going to be talking about and what that's going to look like. So we're going to jump right in because I want to spend as much time as possible on all these awesome artifacts we all brought. So Traci, you have the first artifact for us. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on here, and then we can break it down?
Well, the reason I chose these is because this is in the classroom, but this is play-based learning, and there's also some tech-based coming up. But when we give kids the space to explore and apply learning through their own lens, we can be amazed at what they can accomplish. Letter tiles and building sight words. And I started out giving them a few sight words, and they started building words that aren't even sight words. So then it also becomes this informal assessment. So for parents, when you give kids the space to do play-based, tech-based, coding-based learning, and you just watch, you're amazed at what they can accomplish. We were outside and it was chalk and it was just supposed to be simple addition. These kindergarten students started adding doubles. They were spelling correctly, fingerprint. I mean, they just had all of these words. So the other side of the screen where you see THIS spelled with cars, that's me teaching virtually and kids are at home. And so when I teach virtually, I am always in my classroom. I try to use things that I normally wouldn't use in the classroom, because if I'm truly teaching and giving parents an opportunity to support that learning at home, then I need to teach with things that they would also be teaching and supporting their kids with. The bottom corner where you see operation, that's actually Goose Chase. So what a great way to add the tech, the fun, the energy, the scavenger hunt, all while learning. So there's so many ways we can make learning come alive. We just have to have that little spice of creativity and set them free.
I love all those different things you said about not only the learning, but just the open space to learn and explore. I know for me, that's a big thing in my room. How can we explore learning and come up with those new things? Mary, what is something that maybe stuck out to you when we're looking at this play and tech-based learning?
What stuck out with me is she's letting the kids bring things into the learning process, like utilizing the cars to spell out the words, or when you said that you noticed that they were spelling things correctly and they were counting by 2s and 3s. It wasn't anything you were telling them. You were watching them and they were coming up with their own learning. They were being part of their own learning. And that is amazing.
And I think really too, for me, one thing that I was one of my mentors always told me, tell a kid something, they're going to probably remember it for a minute or two, let them learn it, and they're probably going to remember it for a lifetime. And I think that's absolutely huge in an activity like this. Emine, what is something maybe that stood out to you as far as this artifact we're looking at?
Yeah, I read a great book just on learning in the human brain, and echoing what you said, that we have students that don't remember their multiplication facts or have a hard time remembering their multiplication facts, but can tell you verbatim every single thing they did over the weekend, or can memorize every single lyric to 50 songs, right? Or can memorize everything that happened to one of their favorite movies. So what is that telling me? That they don't have a memory issue, that we have an issue using their senses and inputting these memories by using their senses and thinking of the brain and learning in that way. So it's really nice to see these opportunities for the kids to engage their senses in more than one way, to imprint memories and then make learning meaningful and lasting. So that was really cool to see.
And there's this one thing that I just want to put the cherry on top. If we can go into student experiences, whether we're educators or parents, or educators and parents, with this one thing: never put kids in a box. Never give them an assignment and say, this is what this is the expectation. Allow them to be creative thinkers and watch what they can do. I think in that picture was a kiddo reading Cat in the Hat, and I think it was in there, but I gave no instructions, gave them the books. I gave them a smorgasbord of books, let them choose the books, put out paper. There it is. Put out paper, watercolors, just all these, like almost overstimulation, but they could go and choose whatever their little heart desired. No rules, no instructions. I didn't say paint. I didn't say create. I didn't say retail. And I mean, look at that. Amazing.
It really is. That was going to be one of the things I actually was going to ask you, Traci. So if you could kind of build on, what we saw there, what are some different types of materials, maybe if kids are at home with their parents, or maybe they're, doing maybe like a daycare, what are some kind of materials you would recommend for them to put in front of those kids that would kind of stimulate them? I know that's a really tough question.
No, it's not. That's my favorite.
I was like, okay.
Listen, virtually, I have used shaving cream. The kids have used shaving cream. I've turned on Mission Impossible theme song or Star Wars and had them run to the pantry and get cereal. Just really whatever you have in your house. If you don't have paper, use newspaper. If you don't have, use the back of of a mail, a piece of an envelope, and you can write, like, whether it's algebra, if it's algebraic expressions for the older kids, write those out, put them on the floor, and then toss and hopscotch and just all this. Even older kids love to have fun. When you get them over that hump of I'm too cool for this, and once they do it, like it's in Dr. Portnoy's book, Game On, Brain On. You let them, you get them there, they will take it and run.
I loved how, first of all, how excited you were there, but not only that, but it made me think how many people in the audience, and let alone in this panel, have like wrote words and shaving cream on their desk like in first grade. And remember that, you know what I mean? It's one of those things that really, really sticks with you. And I know we could talk about this for hours, but we're going to move on to our next artifact, which is by Mary. And this one I thought was so cool because she sent it to me personally. So I got to kind of watch it like a while back, and it was just incredible. So Mary, will you tell us a little bit about this awesome video?
Okay. I have the pleasure, now that I'm back and out of the classroom and supposed to be retired, which isn't working, of going and working with my nieces every week. And they tell me what they want to do. And this one, Cece said she wanted to do the Mentos and Coke experiment. So I'm like, okay, we can do it, but we do have guidelines. We have some little at-home lab safety things that we have to consider. And so she had to ask me if she could taste the Coca-Cola. And a lot of the things that we learned were you don't have to have a whole roll of Mentos to go into the bottle of Coke. After 2 Mentos fall, you get the big gush from the bottle. And once you taste it, it doesn't taste like much of anything. And the other thing was, what if you take the coating off of the Mento? What will happen? And these are things we're just doing at home. Every week we do something, from baking a cake to doing elephant toothpaste, but, it's what they want to try, and we try it.
Yes, I what I'm getting from you, Mary, that I absolutely love is that self-exploration and like experiment. And I love that experimental design piece. So for me, this is like incredible. And the fact that she was thinking like, well, what happens if I take, the coating off, or what if I do this or that? That to me is what science is all about and what learning is all about. So that right there stood out to me and just made my, STEM teacher heart really happy, for sure. That, Emine, we'll go to you first. What do you see kind of when you see this artifact as someone with a little bit more of a STEM background?
Yeah, people underestimate the power of cooking when working with children at home, and like how much they learn just from cooking. The science behind it, especially baking, and they love it. There's so much to be learned in the kitchen, even with measuring and stirring and chemical reactions. Taught units just on edible science. The kitchen is a beautiful chemistry lab that wonderful things can come out of. So utilize that space and learn together. I just love the idea of learning with food and using cooking not only as a skill, like a life skill that everybody should learn, but as a way to learn science and math. It's beautiful.
Yes. And as always, Traci, I love when you add into things, and I always say this because kindergarten teachers are like a gift from God. I think that every day when I have kindergarten from 2 to 2:45, I think of you, and I'm like, God bless Traci so much, that's for sure. But Traci, if you could give us a little insight into kind of what your mind is thinking behind this project.
Well, I captured some things that Mary said, and I just want to really repeat them for people to soak it in because it's so important. Just listen. They tell me what they want to do. We need to do more of that in the classroom, at home. Give kids an opportunity to express themselves. Give kids an opportunity to think about what they want and not always be so focused on, I've got this planned, this is what we're going to do. Flip the script and watch what happens. And like Emine said a minute ago, when it's authentic, when they create when they come up with the idea, and then they get to test those hypotheses and the successes and the failures and learn how to do it different and how to and realize what worked and didn't work, they're going to remember that. They're going to start applying that to the rest of their learning. I love that Mary talked about like the lab safety guidelines and expectations, even at home, but especially at home, because there's so many more things and stimuli at home. So it's really important to set those expectations. You said she asked me if I could taste. Like, by setting guidelines, kids start to realize I can't just do it. I need to think about, is this safe? I'm not sure it's safe, so let me ask permission. So all of that is happening in the home setting. And that's not something we have to have a teacher certification to do. Those are experiences, opportunities, and examples that we can all take and run.
I mean, basically, that's one of my we have the safety rules that we came up with. And that's one of the safety rules at home, because understand, I'm not in the classroom anymore. But I'm with kids who are learning from home, and I have the opportunity. These are the things that we do at the end of the day after they've finished all of their schoolwork or all their online learning. So every week they decide what it is they want to try to do, and we sit and we discuss how that's going to happen. So
there's incentive there, there's anticipation, there's that eagerness, like, so awesome.
I was going to say one kind of thing I was going to ask you, Mary, real quick before we kind of go on to the next one is, you said they kind of get to choose what they are, learning or what they want to do. Do you see more excitement behind the fact that they want to do that? And do you ever see them say, well, there's nothing I can't do? Do you kind of see them kind of look at themselves in a positive manner?
Well, first, I've never had to give them a list of what we can do. I tried that the first week and it was like, okay. But after that, I started asking them, and I saw that anticipation and that wanting to try things just grow and grow and grow. And one of the things that I found was so cute, my youngest niece, she wanted to bake a cake. Everybody her sister is allergic to everything that's in a cake, but she wanted to bake a cake. So we baked that cake, vanilla pound cake. And her mother comes home from work, because her mother's an administrator. And she said, well, I bought you a cake home because it was principal, vice principal appreciation week. And my niece tells her, oh, you can eat that. I bake my own cake. And I was like, so they take ownership of what we do at home. And these are things that I did in school, and they've seen me do, with students at school. So they want to try them. And a lot of them are high school things, and they love it.
See, I feel like, I just love that students, when they get to kind of choose what they do, what I'm hearing is like, they believe in themselves. They see the value. They see, hey, I can do this. And I can say, this brings so much value to what I am doing here. In the classroom or outside the classroom, whatever that might be. We are going to move on to our next artifact, which is Emine. Emine, can you tell us a little bit about the artifact you got going on?
Yes, I can. So we bought these electronic kits, but in the kits, they had magnets. And I was like, how can I utilize these? So I decided to talk about movement with magnets. So like we talked about high-speed trains, and you might know this, Spencer, the dragster at Cedar Point.
Yep.
And how that moves at high speeds with magnets. And so I started off as this just as an introduction. How to make something move with a magnet, easy peasy, which was just a little magnet maze. And then I took it a step further, and we did the parts of a story. So I made them come up with a setting, 2 characters, a problem, a solution, easy, just very simple, 1 sentence, and a title. So this was mine. I made like 2 flamingos dancing. My story was really weak, but when I tell you, one kid came with the entire scene of Lord of the Rings, And he put a magnet on the ring so that when Frodo went to the ring, it would repel away, which I thought was so cool. So they got really creative. We're really excited to like bring everything to life with the magnets, but this was just something super fun that you can even use with just kitchen magnets and just get things to move around. And it was a lot of fun to learn about.
That is so cool. And the whole Lord, like all Lord of the Rings, like decked out. We need to see a picture of that, like maybe on Office Hours Twitter page or
I will. It was impressive. I was sitting there like live streaming it on Instagram. I'm like, people need to see this. I'm like, it went all out.
That is really neat. I know off the top of my head, wow, so much learning is taking place here and so easy to do at home. And I think that's what, parents really appreciate when it's engaging, easy to do at home. And it's something that they would love to do. So Traci, could you maybe give us a little feedback into this artifact and what you're kind of seeing here with what she is telling us?
Well, it's that whole thing about setting them free. And, look at what she said. The kiddo was like, "Ooh, I can actually simulate this really cool movie by making the magnets repel." Like it's such a great way to do like this informal assessment and anecdotals and to just watch their creativity and the fun that they have, the experience. Can you imagine what these kids, when they create these things, the conversations they're having in their homes, the kids get the opportunity to create, explain, get the family involved. So it's so much more than an activity. It's really an experience that we're providing for the kids, a rich experience, and really getting them to challenge themselves and challenge their thinking. So I love it.
Yeah. With a lot of these, it's really nice. I'm so happy you brought that up to see as the pandemic progressed and as everybody got used to virtual learning, how much the parents were starting to get invested in their kids' projects, but like in a very healthy way. Like it wasn't like, you gotta get this done. It was like, oh, this is kind of fun and we have like a week to do it. And then like they come back with castles. I'm like, okay, but I'm glad you guys had fun doing it. But yeah, it's been really nice to see. Sorry, everybody's in the background.
And that community, and I think definitely that community piece with it for sure. Mary, what do you see kind of when you see this project?
I see this project it's again ownership, because you said the young man did the Lord of the Rings, but it's making your own. They can either did you have them take something that they know, or could they make up their own story?
I had a student come up with a story about a flower that didn't want to give the bee any more pollen. So the whole story, the flower is running away from the bee. Or I had students come up with like mad science lab and explosions coming out of nowhere. So they would just pop up an explosion really fast. Like I let them come up with anything that they wanted. Mine was probably the weakest storyline out of all the submissions I got. It was 2 dancing flamingos, and it was so bad.
It was not.
You always got to give me a like that.
Because I mean, look at what they did. It sounds like it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, so magnets, they seem really simple, but they're a good way. I learned actually a lot even teaching this. You can do a lot with them, which is really cool.
I saw it originally on your Instagram, so right away I was like, I need to get some more magnets next year for sure. And
right.
It looks like so much fun. I was like, that's cheap, easy, something I can tell my kids to do this summer at home, because I have parents all the time asking like, hey, what should I do? What a great artifact. Thank you so much, Emine, for that. And now we're moving on to the last one, which is my artifact. And I'm super excited about this one because this is one of my favorite lessons I do with my kids. We create slime, and the kids love this one because kids just love slime. I've found out really fast when I started creating this project. The one thing I will say is you can add glitter to slime, but I do not like it. But a lot of parents, if you're okay with that, go ahead, or teachers, go ahead. The cool part and kind of thinking behind this and the engaging and fun part for students, I said, hey, I'm going to use contact solution. I'm going to use baking soda, and I am also going to use glue. And here's how much I'm using. And then they would say, well, yours seems a little too hard or a little too soft. Can I change the recipe? So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about changing things up. And they start to say, well, what if I do this, or what if I do this? And just looking at that experimental piece, I ended up writing a blog post all about this because my students started building hypothesis and I wasn't even asking them to. It's one of those things where they just said, hey, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to see what happens. And they would come to me so excited to say, hey, when I did this to my slime and I added this result happened. And this was a video at the time when we were remote, when we did it last year at this time of mine, and I was hitting a hammer because I was showing the kids like, hey, what is this? Like the slime I have, is it a solid? Is it, liquid? And we just had such great conversations around it. And we had so much fun doing it. A lot of the kids told me it didn't even seem like I was a teacher that week. It just seemed like I was just hanging out with them, building something. And I thought that was kind of neat. So that's kind of why I wanted to share this slime project. I'm going to bounce it over to Traci first. Traci, what do you kind of think of when you see a slime project like this as a kindergarten teacher?
I mean, what kid does not love slime, right? So, I mean, you bring that to the table, you've already amped up the experience. But that whole thing about what if, and that's a skill that we're teaching kids. Yes, they're having fun. Yes, they're doing STEM, but it's this analytical thinking. It's challenging their thinking. It's allowing them to experiment, wonder, and then test their thoughts, and just like, can everything be that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not, we need to go cross curricular, like not just set them free and hypothesize and explore and test things in science. It's got to be in social studies. It's got to be in algebra. It's got to be in geometry. It's got to be in chemistry. Everything is not linear. And we need to take that not take it out of, but add to the other content areas, just like we do in science. And I know a lot of times as teachers and parents too, we have our comfort zones and we have those things we really, really love. And I always challenge myself to have the same energy in every single content area that I do in ELA, which reading, language arts, phonics, because I am so passionate about that. And I challenge myself to make sure I'm giving kids that same experience in the other content areas. So when we're home in the summer, we have to realize and remember that it's not about what we're comfortable with or what we enjoy. It's making sure that we give them those same awesome slime activities in every single content area.
And that's a great way to word it, Traci. I love that how you said that, creating that opportunity in every subject area and looking at cross-curricular. Emine, what do you kind of think of when you think of a slime project like this?
What struck me was when you said the student said it didn't feel like you were a teacher, it felt like you were one of them. And we don't understand the power of how democratizing the learning process and coming down and having a dialogue with these kids on a human one-on-one level. And it's really important that we break those barriers of just being the person up there that has all the answers to being somebody that they feel safe around, that they can learn with and be themselves and creative and just be human with. And I think that's really special that you created that space for your students, right? Every person needs a space that they can go to and do those things. And if it's not us in schools, then we don't know if they're getting it elsewhere, but we have to do our power in our classrooms, virtual or in person, to make sure that these kids, even if they're only with you for the year, just have a safe space to come to be. And so that's awesome that your students say that about you, because that's number one key to gaining trust and learning.
Yes, and I definitely think, a lot of times when they say it, they kind of say it like, are you a teacher kind of thing? And like most people might be offended, but I'm always like, hey, I feel like that's a compliment. That makes you feel like you're, safe around me. And I feel like that's when the creativity happens, the learning happens. And that's when I see some of my best, some of the students that teachers we talk about a lot on here with, student-centered stuff, putting them in a box and maybe saying, that kid, they're not going to figure it out. That kid for me is my best student. Usually they're the person that thrives the most because they feel comfortable with me. And really, they see the value in that, and I see the value in them. And that's what, this kind of project, I hope that changes them. I hope it's one that when they're a senior in high school, they look back and say, I remember making slime with Mr. Sharp, and it changed me because now I want to do, this with my life. So that's why I love it. And yeah, it's a great project. Mary, what do you see when you see the slime project here?
Well, not just seeing the slime project, some of it was what you said. One of the things the kids need to see us as educators do is have fun. And they saw you have fun and not be stressed about, I've got to do attendance, I've got to deal with behavior, I've got to make sure I get these papers graded. You were having fun. And I went through that same thing with my kids on island when before I came back in January. I had them build all the things that they wanted to build, and they would bring them back, and we did a bridge project. And I recorded, I had them on live, and I tested their bridges, and they thought that that was the best thing to see, me enjoy myself. And some of the bridges broke after 10 pounds. Some of them broke after 100 pounds. Some of them didn't break after 150 pounds. But just to see my anticipation of something happening, you were having fun and they were having fun with you. So
yes, I think that's something, we talked earlier about how this time of year is so stressful for teachers. It's been a lot the last year and a half time. So, having fun with your students and remembering what it's all about, I think is so important. So I'm so glad you said that, Mary, and pointed that out, because that really, really stood out to me for sure too. So I think having that fun piece in with our students is absolutely huge. That is all the time we have today, but we have a couple things we got to tell you before we wrap up and say our goodbyes. Some important things. The first thing is you need to join a Facebook group. That's right. The Global Educators Network Facebook group, a great Facebook group to be added to. I know I'm on it. It's a great way to connect with different people in the educational space. So go join that today. There's a little bit link there. And the next thing, office hours, we're going to be back May 25th, and we're talking all about finding those family activities that are fun and educational. I know I'm excited about that for me and my family, and I hope you are as well, because I think that's going to be a great episode for us on May 25th. So join in at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then lastly, we got our very own Charles. He's going to be on the principal's office, and they're going to be talking all about those awesome things on Saturday at 10 a.m. So I am excited to come and see Charles. I love listening to him speak, other than him being a Cubs fan, which I give him a tough time about all the time. I will tune in and listen, Charles. I absolutely promise. So we appreciate you tuning in today. We hope these activities were fun for you, and we're hoping that you and your students can connect and do these. And maybe if you're a parent, you get to do them in the summer. So thank you so much for tuning in to Office Hours. Have a great night. See you guys.
Good night.
Thank you for watching School Rubric on YouTube. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe in order to stay looped in on all of our diverse collection of shows, interviews, panels, tutorials, and more from educators around the globe. And visit us at SchoolRubric.com for even more great content, such as our online articles, Interact magazine, featured podcasts, and more. Thank you.